It isn't how many we've had to kill, because Hamas makes sure that they're shielded by civilians. They'll force you to kill civilians if you want to defend yourself.
Okay, that is former President Bill Clinton campaigning for Kamala Harris in Michigan, talking about how Hamas just surrounds itself with babies and straps its on. So you gotta kill all the babies. Of course you do. Again, Michigan, home to the largest Arab and Muslim American population in the country. And somehow he thought this would go over well. Oh my God, what are they doing? Once again, there have been 43,000 people murdered by Israel in Gaza at the lowest level possible. Again, the high end of what estimates of how many people have been killed are 200,000. Okay, so again, all of this is still going on as refugee camps are targeted like Jabalia, as children in incubators are being targeted by having the oxygen supplies of their hospitals deliberately taken out, as children are found with bullet holes right into their skulls, like an assassination. Bill Clinton says that. So you can see why some voters might be upset, those who don't like killing children. And here he is about a little bit more, there's a lot more in fact, about why he thinks that at the end of the day, these voters should just get over it.
I understand why young Palestinian and Arab Americans in Michigan think too many people have died. I get that. But if you lived in one of those kibbutzim in Israel, right next to Gaza, and Hamas butchered them, and so then the people who criticize it are essentially saying, yeah, but look how many people you've killed in retaliation. So how many is enough for you to kill to punish them for the terrible things they did? That all sounds nice until you realize, what would you do if it was your family and you hadn't done anything but support a homeland for the Palestinians, and one day they come for you and slaughter the people in your village? You would say, well, you'll have to forgive me, I'm not keeping score that way.
Oh God, okay, so not only is it awful, it's rambling and it doesn't make sense, but there he is asking Arab and Muslim voters like, hey, what if you had family who was killed? And they're like, yeah, we have. But no, he's only counting the family members of the people who were killed by Hamas. He's not counting the family members of the people who were killed by Israel. It gets worse though. He is now criticizing Americans for criticizing Biden. Just don't criticize how Biden's handled this, in fact.
When I read that people in Michigan are thinking about not voting because they're mad at the Biden administration for honoring his historic obligation to try to keep Israel from being destroyed, I think that's a mistake. Kamala Harris has said that she will try to negotiate an end to the violence, an end to the killing, and a new peace process, and that ought to be enough.
And there you have the audience at least trying to help him out and applauding, saying that she says she's going to negotiate, even though let's make sure we keep it 100. The Biden administration has foregone negotiation at this point because they don't have a partner in Israel. Negotiations have stopped. There's no more around the clock. There is no negotiations to release hostages. We haven't even talked about the hostages in weeks. No, we haven't heard any American official talk about them or their well-being, to say nothing of the people being slaughtered every single day. But Cenk, how did they know he was gonna just wax on about this and just freelance on how, you should really stop criticizing Biden because he's trying, and I'm gonna say other incoherent and very Islamophobic things?
Yeah, it was a super offensive speech and it was incredibly counterproductive. I mean, this is how you try to lose a race. So let me break it down. First, look, I'm going to stick with the confirmed numbers, 43,000 dead. That's already horrific, and it's 40 times the number of people that Hamas killed. That's going to get to the main point, which Franny alluded to, which is, look at his perspective. His perspective is, well, look, when he talks about the family members in the kibbutz who were killed, he's right about that. There were a lot of people there that actually were more in favor of a two-state solution than in other parts of Israel. That's why terrorism doesn't make any sense. You're killing civilians, you don't know who you're killing, and they might actually be your allies and your friends, and so it's a counterproductive way to go. But at the same time, he says, now, if you had your family members that were killed that way, wouldn't you want kill 40 times as many of their family members? Number one, my answer is no. No, I wouldn't want to kill 40 times as many families in Palestine. And I would hope that you would be a decent human being and not say oh yeah, let's get vengeance and kill. Oh, remember the people who were killed, some of them really believed in a Palestinian state and were good people to Palestinians. That's why they would want 40 times as many of them being murdered. How does that make any sense? But even more importantly than that, he never even once considers, wait, what if my family was in Gaza and 43,000 of them were just slaughtered? What would that make me want to do? Wouldn't that want to make me defend myself? And how would I defend myself? And what can I possibly do when Israel says we're never going to end the occupation? That is literally a vote they had in their cabinet, that Palestine will never be a state. What are they supposed to do? So I say terrorism is bad. I hope a lot of you say terrorism is bad. But no matter what they do today, in the Israeli press, Israel said that they will not negotiate with the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank for peace. Well, wait a minute. If you're not negotiating with Hamas and you're not negotiating with the Palestinian Authority that works with you in the occupation of the West Bank, who can you? Oh, right, you don't want to negotiate for peace. So this is disgusting. And then to blame the Palestinians for their own deaths. Well, they're using human shields. They made us do it. They made the poor Israeli victims. The IDF are such victims here because Hamas made them kill all those civilians in Gaza. That's a disgusting thing to say. I know that it's a regular talking point on television, and I know that just 5 years ago, or maybe 2 years ago, that Bill Clinton would have said that and everybody would have applauded. Oh yeah, of course, human shields, the right to defend yourself. Of course, slaughter all the Palestinians you want. But today's a different day, man, because you know why? Because we all saw the slaughter with our own eyes. You don't have mainstream media to protect you anymore and to pretend that Israel is the victim when they kill 40 times the number of civilians. Oops, I did it again and again and again and again. But they're just collateral damage. They're just human shields. And the Palestinians made us kill them and made us occupy them because they're the violent ones. Yeah, okay, well, you look disgusting when you say that. So that's Bill Clinton giving a speech that he would normally give his most precious followers, his donors. And his donors would go, yes, 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 let America, so you better send them a $26 billion check. And Clinton would say, and the Democrats would Biden, Harris, everybody, oh yeah, and by the way, Trump too. Oh yeah, right away, sir. We're sending you $26 billion right away. Kill more Palestinians. They had it coming. It was their fault. It was their fault. That would work great in a donor room, and it has. That's why they've raised a spectacular amount of money. But when you're going to try to get Arab and Muslim votes in Michigan, you moron, you might want to try a different speech. Do you know they also sent Richie Torres to Michigan?
Oh God,
Richie Torres.
What do we do?
What are you trying to lose the election?
No.
Why don't you send Fetterman to go punch a couple of Muslim voters in Michigan while you're at it? I mean, Jesus Christ, how stupid are you on top of being immoral? I've got more, but Franny.
No, but you know what though? This is it. Like I understand that on this issue, Kamala Harris doesn't deserve to win. But also, we understand that Trump would be, and has been far worse. But so if anyone says that anyone who votes for Kamala to do to do damage control or harm reduction isn't serious about ending the occupation, I give you a massive movement, myself included, who will not give an inch on this issue when it comes to the Democrats. But they are better adversaries to fight against. They are people who, when you protest them, they will not criminalize you and drag you out by your feet and tell you should be pushed off of bridges. But there are people who are gonna be sort of like, all right, we hear you. We're all trying to work around the clock. No, you're not. We know you're not. And we're gonna be holding your feet to the fire, and we're gonna be pushing you on this issue, because as decrepit as Bill Clinton sounds when he advocates for the mass murder of Palestinians, that decrepit little Zionist voice, I want nowhere near the mainstream of the Democratic Party. It is decrepit. Why? Because it's dying. It is a dying perspective, and we need to make sure that it dies. Truly, like, that is so old. And then he starts going on about, oh, well, the Palestinians rejected a homeland in the year 2000 when I was doing the Camp David Accords. This guy, again, still wants us. What are we supposed to do? You're gonna lean over a child who's starving to death in North Gaza and shake your finger at it and say, look, number one, you voted for Hamas even though you were not born yet. And number two, you rejected your homeland, and Yasser Arafat did a terrible job representing you in the year 2000. Ergo, you need to starve to death, and Israel's going to recolonize Gaza. Miss me with all of these talking points. It's so gross. And I just want to throw up the mayor of Dearborn, Michigan, Abdullah Hammoud, who, if you can tell by his tweet, is very much invested in a Harris-Walz campaign winning, but says this: rumor has it the Dems want to send Bill Clinton to Dearborn to rally the Arab vote this weekend. Do us a favor. Stop sending surrogates who have no respect or regard for this community. You're only inflicting more damage. Again, it's a little bit of a word to the wise. Stop.
Yeah. So let me break down a couple more things in this awful speech. And to Franny's point, yeah, I agree. Trump is always worse on every issue, right? And Trump right now is lying to somebody because he's out there going, oh, we're gonna have peace in the Middle East as soon as I'm elected, right? And I'm anti-war. Oh, man, wars are gonna be over when I'm elected. And he's going and telling his donors, I'm gonna let Israel do whatever it wants. And I'm gonna finance it, So I got you, dog. And that's why Netanyahu is backing Trump. Because he knows Trump's gonna let him go wild. Anti-war, my ass. And who do you think Trump's gonna serve? The people who gave him millions of dollars or the average guy? If you think this is the average guy, you're the sucker at the table, okay? So this guy's a legendary con man. All he ever cares about is himself and money. So between the two people that he's telling completely different stories to, my guess is he's gonna deliver for the donors and not you guys, which again, makes him a very standard politician from both parties. Okay, so to the point, back to this speech. So he says, well, Hamas is using human shields, and so that's why the Israelis had to kill the kids. But the American doctors on the scene said there was an extraordinary percentage of kids with headshots, snipers shooting them from a long distance. Kids. Why didn't they, if they're snipers, why didn't they shoot the Hamas guy behind them if that story was theoretically true? Why did they shoot the kid? Nah. And over and over and over and over. Collateral damage, my ass. Look, I get it. Some people are biased and they're like, no, my side is so pure and moral. They would never do anything like that. I don't care if you give me overwhelming evidence. By the way, you sound like a Trump supporter. Overwhelming evidence by every news agency and every human rights group. No, they're all wrong because the whole world is anti-Semitic. So we get to kill all the kids and we're the good guys. No, you don't. No, you don't. You need to, it doesn't mean that you're not good guys. It means you need to turn around. You need to turn around now, okay? Because this is not what good guys do. This is awful. And don't tell me you had to do it when you use snipers, let alone the fact that they use snipers to kill an American journalist and an American recently in the West Bank. All sniper shots. What happened to human shields? No, the snipers are trying to kill those people, innocent civilians, journalists, etc. And then he said later in the speech, look, Israel was there first anyway, before your religion was even formed.
Oh, okay. God.
First of all, do you think that's a winning message to say to Muslims? It's not your land anyway. I mean, they were there first, a couple of thousand years ago, maybe, according to some ancient texts. By the way, Israeli professors went to Egypt to prove, they were like, oh, this is really interesting. Let's see if we can find some archaeological finds show that Moses was there and the Jews were enslaved in Egypt, etc. These are Israeli anthropologists. Came back, nonsense. The Egyptians have so many records, and there is no records of Jews being enslaved there or Moses leading them out, let alone, of course, the nonsense about the Red Sea and the frogs raining down from the sky, etc. So the whole thing is fiction. It's fiction. It's not that there were no Jews in the Middle East, not in Egypt, but there were in the original area, right? But that justifies it? Well, if that justifies it, well, the Turks were occupying both of them. Can I get it back? Am I now in charge? What kind of moronic history is this? And to say, oh, at several thousand years ago they were there, so now they get to take your actual home, and drive you out of it and take your land. And you think that's a winning message to tell Muslim and Arab voters in Michigan? I don't know what happened to the Democratic leaders' minds. I think they all simultaneously melted. I'm not done yet. One more thing. When he said that, no, two more things. When he said it at the end there that we showed you, he said, she said that she'll try to negotiate. That should be good enough. She'll try to negotiate after the election, and that should be good enough. No, it's not within a million miles of good enough. That's basically saying, I took the donor money, I'm gonna do what the donors say, shut up and vote for me, and then afterwards I'll pretend I negotiated, and I'll do the same exact thing now, send them a blank check, and let them slaughter your family members. But remember, the only people you should have sympathy for is Israeli family members. Now we say, have sympathy for both, and they say no. Finally, the human shield nonsense, I can't stand it anymore. That talking point is vomitous. Every single resistance group, whether they're terrorists or not, whether they kill civilians or not, every resistance group has lived with civilians. You know why? Because they don't have a choice. They're a resistance group, they don't have military bases, and where do they come from? They don't come from an army, the army's already been defeated. They come from the civilians. So under this logic, well, the Nazis had to kill the French. They had to kill them. They were resisting. They had to kill the Jews. They were resisting. They were doing violence against the poor Germans. Are you offended by that analogy? You should be 10,000 times more offended that Israel right now is starving the children of northern Gaza. They've barely let any humanitarian aid or food in since the beginning of this month, an entire month of a planned starvation where the Palestinian starving children just look like the Jewish kids out of the Holocaust. That should rip your insides out. That should make you so sad for what Israel has become. But instead of turning around, you have a bunch of corrupt, immoral politicians like Bill Clinton going and yelling at Muslim and Arab voters that it's their fault, and if they know what's good for them, they should bow their heads and support Kamala Harris, even though she's 100% on Israel's side. It's disgusting.
Yeah, I mean, and this is, look, I think they're gonna lose Michigan, in my opinion. I don't think the blue wall's done if they lose Michigan. I have a little bit of a different take. I do think they'll, I don't think the whole wall will fall, but I don't think they're carrying Michigan, and I think they'll pick up either North Carolina or Nevada or Arizona or something. But this is bad. I mean, when the mayor of Dearborn's like, you're doing more damage, he's saying, uncle, you've already told us that you don't care about our community's lives. Uncle, stop making it worse. You've already told us, and they want to do more. They're gonna send Richie Torres. Stop, just stop.
Yeah, if you don't know, Richie Torres is the most virulently pro right-wing Netanyahu government supporting a member of Congress. Maybe he's tied with Fetterman, but he's out there trying to make sure that no one's allowed to criticize Israel. He's on a cancel
more money
culture
than any congressperson, I believe.
He's gotten $1.2 million from pro-Israel PACs. I mean, his corruption is so over the top and so disgusting, and he dehumanizes Palestinians. And why is he used? Like a stupid stooge that he is. Let's be honest. Oh, look, we got a minority to say that minority lives don't matter, that only Israeli lives matter. Only Israeli lives matter. 40 times as many children killed, grandmothers killed, aunts and uncles and moms killed in Gaza. Who cares? I don't have to think about their families. They were stupid human shields, and they had it coming. That's your stupid message, Richie Torres, Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, you monsters, and also morons. And you'd rather serve your donors than win this election. So if Kamala Harris loses this election, I don't want any stupid, idiotic, moronic mainstream media or Democratic Party leaders coming out going, oh, no, it was the voters' fault. It was the Arabs' fault and young black males' fault and women's fault. They didn't come out enough. And it was progressives' fault and it was somebody else's fault. I mean, she had to serve the donors, even though it cost her the election. She has to. She has to serve the moneyed interests. No, she doesn't. And by the way, you idiot, you already have the money. You're supposed to use the money to win the election. In the end, at least have enough common sense to turn to the voters, even if you're faking it. But she's not even smart enough to do that. And neither is Bill Clinton, neither is Joe Biden. A bunch of donor-obsessed goons who have no morality at all.
I mean, tell me how you really feel, Cenk, but like.
Yeah. By the way, as always, Trump also. But like, you don't know that Trump's immoral? Congratulations, you're in a tie with Donald Trump. You must be so proud. Thanks for watching. If you become a member, you get to watch all this ad-free, except for, of course, this ad. Still, hit the join button below.